Food noise is not a willpower problem. It's not a mental health issue. It is not a chemical imbalance in your brain. It's an inputs problem. When you fix the inputs, fuel, timing, sleep, strength, stress load, the volume will drop. Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, the podcast where we debunk the eat less, move more, shrink more mentality and focus on what really matters, which includes your relationship with your body, food, self-worth, and the behaviors that align with all of those. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, licensed therapist with specialized training in food and body obsession, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. At the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, we believe what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. So let's have a conversation about that. Before we get into today's episode, I want to make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, if you don't want to miss any content that's being dropped, make sure you hit that notification bell as well. I also want to know who are the people you want to hear from on this show and what topics would you like me to continue to cover. Thank you so much for your continued support. Now, let's get into the episode. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about the 10 things that increase food noise and how to turn it down. I'm so excited to talk about this. I talk about this a lot on my TikTok, so buckle up. For those of you who just found us because you want to very much learn how to reduce food noise, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. I like to talk about pop culture and things going on in my life for the first about 10 minutes. This conversation that we're going to have today actually feeds into the conversation at hand. But if you want to fast forward to when we talk about food noise, check out the show notes below to see when that starts. So this is going to be a little bit past when this was controversial, but I do need to talk about the Serena Williams Ro collaboration. She is this like ambassador for Ro, which is a telehealth company that highly promotes GLP-1s. And I have seen a lot of the conversations online, including one side being like, well, see, she's a professional athlete and she couldn't lose the weight after her second baby, even though she is on a clean diet and she works out and da 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 da. So if she can't do it, then why are you telling us we can? Okay. And then the other side who's like, this is the problem with GLP-1s. People who obviously don't need to lose a lot of weight are on them, and this, that, the other thing. And they're both going at each other. One thing I want you guys to know, if you didn't know, is that her husband is an early investor to Ro, and he is on the board. So that's where I'm a little bit skeptical about this, because did she actually lose the weight with the GLP-1? Because at the end of the day, a GLP-1 suppresses your appetite. Now, it does this through managing food noise, which we're going to talk about today. I'm literally going to walk you through how to do that without a GLP-1. It does this through, managing the reward center of your brain. But at the end of it all, the reason why people are losing weight is because they're eating less. So you're telling me that this amazing woman who has accomplished so much in her life couldn't lose weight through a dietitian or a nutritionist or coach, trainer? I have a really hard time believing that. And let's face it, she didn't need to lose weight. She's so muscular and beautiful and love it. Now, postpartum is you're going to have weight gain, right? And keep in mind that for some women, they think that, once they're cleared at the 6 weeks, that weight should come off. That's not how it works. Your postpartum journey can be upwards of like 2 years, right? Maybe longer. However, it takes a long time for the hormones themselves to settle or I don't like the word settle, to reorganize themselves, right? And then if we have breastfeeding involved, right? That's another thing. So for some people, they may think, well, the weight's not coming off when their hormones haven't even adjusted. And then they think, well, I need to do something different. I'm working out, I'm doing all the things, when really it's like, no, you just need to take a little bit more time and calm the fuck down. I just have a hard time believing that this is the only, people are making up that it does this special thing. It makes you eat less. Okay. Now, maybe, okay, so I want to full disclosure. I have partnered with a local provider who does supply GLP-1s. And I've partnered with her as an add-on to her services because she does it so well. She has her clients do an in-body scan every single week to ensure that they're not losing muscle, and then partnered with me so that I can help them while on the GLP-1 work with food noise, right? Helping them have a greater capacity to manage stress, helping them recognize their triggers, ensuring that they're feeding themselves properly and exercising properly. And this will help these people, oh, I guess, and then also help them with a ramp off of the medications. And I've talked to her and she's talked about like there are advantages of GLP-1s for your average person, right? And a lot of the ones that I'm going to talk about are something that I'm going to do a lot more research on because I think that they're really beneficial. And those being a reduction in depression and anxiety, increase in cognitive health and lowering things like dementia and Alzheimer's, which I think is fantastic, right? And most importantly, helping with other types of reward system activity like alcohol, nicotine, and opioids. And it can help reduce inflammation in the body, especially you can use GLP-1 and microdose it to help reduce inflammation in your body. Now, reducing inflammation in your body is you may not you might see weight loss from it, and for some of these people, that is also an added benefit at the higher doses. So I'm talking microdose and then higher doses. At the higher doses, it will help you lose weight, right? And it will really like I never experienced a high dose of GLP-1. It will get to the point where like you forget to eat. And I've worked with you guys may not realize I work with clients on GLP-1s. A few of them actually. So I know this from them. And I really have to force them to figure out how to get those calories in. And it's so interesting because a lot of my clients on GLP-1s, I realize by watching their eating patterns that it's the eating patterns and the things that we're going to talk about today that are actually causing their food noise and that they don't actually need to be on the GLP-1 once we figure those things out. But anyways, at the microdose, it has nothing to do with weight loss. So I wanted to say that because I think that that is a shift in how I look at GLPs and other peptides. Now, keep in mind, we still don't know the side effects of these things. So if you are going to use them, we want to work with a professional and not this person online. That's why I like working with Cheryl. She's a nurse practitioner and she's going to see you and she's collecting data and she's partnering with someone like me so that we can do this properly. One of my best friends, actually, she's might work with her and I'm interested to see, and maybe she'll share her journey. I don't know if she will, but we'll see. So if you're in the Valley, Arizona, Phoenix, she's up in North Scottsdale and you're interested in doing that, let me know. But it's just kind of weird to me because if we're looking at this endorsement or this collaboration or whatever you want, ambassadorship, her husband's on the board. He is an investor. So just like we talk about like research studies, especially when they have outcomes that support the thing that they're trying to sell, like where's the money coming from? Or where's the money? Who benefits the most from this partnership? Their family does, right? And you're led to believe that it was this company and the GLP-1 where she lost weight. And maybe it was. But again, did she choose to do this because of her struggles, or did she choose to do this because it paid her a lot of money? Or, this is my conspiracy theory, she lost the weight through regular means, but used that as a way to endorse this company so that her and her husband could ding ding. I need sound effects. Ching ching. Right? So that's my 2 cents on it. And also an update on my feelings on GLPs. The next thing I want to look into is peptides. And I know Dr. Jordan is kind of opening up that box. I had a former client who worked with me specifically on her mental health. I hadn't talked to her for a while, and she used peptides and she did lose a lot of weight. The only thing I am terrified of for some peptides, not GLP-1s, is cancer growth. Some of them have a lot of growth hormone factor in them, and we're trying to stay away from that. So this gives us a great transition into our topic today. So we're talking about food noise, that constant mental chatter about food, calories, should I, shouldn't I, the running negotiation of whatever food is doing in your head. You feel like food is always on your mind. You're not mentally ill. You There are specific triggers that make the volume of food noise spike. We are going to name them, explain why they happen, and how they show up day to day. And then I'm going to talk about what actually works. So, what is food noise and what is it not? So, food noise is a persistent preoccupation with food that persists even when we've eaten enough. It is not a mental illness. This is very, very environmental. It is very behavioral, which you will understand today. Here's something. Diet culture designed behaviors that increase food noise and then created things like GLP-1s to say, this is how you reduce food noise. Let that sink in. Let it sink in, right? This is all diet culture's fault because there's a difference between true hunger, which is steady, physical, it builds gradually, and your appetite, which is a desire, right? It's a satisfaction need, and it's often situational. And when I say satisfaction, you guys are going to think like cake. No, 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 no. We're going to talk more about what that means. It gets loud when your body senses a sense of scarcity, a sense of stress or chaos. And scarcity can also be a lack of satisfaction. And this can also be physical scarcity or mental scarcity. So it is not this thing we just have. I hear that all the time. I have food noise. I had to get rid of the food noise. Why the fuck was it there in the first place? Why are you not asking yourself this? If you were thinking about, I don't know, something else all day, you're probably like, why do I think about that all day? But because that culture has created the behaviors that make food noise real and then told you food noise was a problem and thus you need to go on GLP-1s to fix it, that it's kind of this like, oh, I get it. It's a problem that I need to fix, even though you're the reason it's created. But I just told you that, so you didn't know that till now. So, okay, here are 10 things that will increase your food noise. For each of these triggers, we're going to talk about why it gets loud, what it looks like, and ways to turn it down. Okay, so grab your pen and paper. So, the first thing that is going to cause food noise is, like I said, cutting your calories and chronic dieting, which is everything that diet culture wants you to do. Your body reads underfueling as scarcity. We call this famine, right? And ramps up your hunger signals, your obsession and food seeking. I had talked about this before. There have been two very specific studies that actually underfed people and then studied their behaviors. And it showed through the lack of food, people would obsess. They'd start looking at magazines around food. They'd start hoarding behaviors. And even when they did eat, it didn't feel like enough, right? Your body is brilliant. And I feel like I tell you this every episode. So it will, anytime it feels like it's not getting food, it's going to ramp up those hunger signals. It's going to ramp up your obsession around food until it gets it. It is seeking and it shall find. This looks like thinking about food all day, white knuckling, weekdays, and overeating at night or on the weekends, right? And the easiest way to turn this down is to bring intake toward your maintenance, meaning the amount of calories of food you need to maintain your weight. And I know if you're in a larger body, you're going to think, why would I eat more calories? We've got to teach your body that it can trust that you're going to fuel it properly, because chronic dieting teaches it the opposite. Check out my last episode. I talked about why you can't lose weight on 1,200 calories. Okay. When you can fuel your body enough and be patient with it, then also anchor your meals around 25 to 35 grams of protein per meal, adding in your carbs, adding in your fats. This alone will help you to reduce food noise. Okay. And the beauty of this is once you learn how your body responds at maintenance, which I've had many episodes on this, many, many episodes. Literally, the last episode I talked about this. So this might sound redundant, but we're going to get to other specific things. You will realize how shitty it has felt being in these really low, low calories, right? But also you will have mental clarity and you will reduce food noise greatly just by reducing scarcity of food. Okay. So that is number one. Number two, very similar, but different. Skipping meals or having chaotic mealtime. So long gaps in meals tank your energy and trigger this rebound of craving and urgency to get that food. So that looks like I'm fine until 3 p.m. Then I raid the pantry or I'm nighttime snacking and it feels uncontrollable, right? And the funny thing about this is I know for a lot of women who do this, like the food noise is less because that 3 p.m. is usually when they're really busy and then it's boom, it's loud. And they're like, it feels so uncontrollable. It does feel like I have a chemical imbalance in my brain. But really, it's because of these gaps in time. And so we needed to be able to turn down that noise, we need to eat throughout the day. 3 meals, one or two planned snacks, and let's just try not to go 4 to 5 hours without eating, right? And again, eating your protein, your fibers, carbs, your fats, right? But also throwing in treats here and there, right? Because I'm also going to talk about satisfaction of food, which is very important in what we're going to talk about. But skipping meals, a lot of people will do this where they will be in a calorie deficit, probably too low. They'll skip meals to get to an event and then they way overdo it at the event. And then they tell themselves, see, I have no control over food. When actually the control you had started that morning when you should have had breakfast. You should have started to control your food by eating your food, but you chose not to. You starved yourself all day, put yourself in a scarcity mindset, if you will, or a sense of scarcity in your body. And once you got in front of food, your body said, we need that. Let's go. Number three, you are eating a lot of foods that lack protein and fiber. Protein and fiber increase satiety and they blunt your cravings. Without them, you stay very snacky. Okay. And what that looks like is you're grazing all afternoon, finishing meals and still wanting more, right? And your protein and fiber is, I know it's like these are buzzwords out there. They're they're necessary. Like your body needs them. And when we get them through processed foods, that's not it. But a lot of you, and I get it, guys, it's for convenience. However, if we could spend some time, I have for my company, our clients, I have a ton of resources that show them, you know, proteins that you can buy that are easy to make. So your yogurt, your cottage cheese, your rotisserie chickens, your tuna packets, your salmon packets, your smoked salmons, your hard-boiled eggs. Those are things that are easy. They're convenient and they're whole foods, right? Your fiber is so important. Again, fiber helps with so many things. It helps with digestion, feeling full, helps with, getting of managing your gut microbiome. It helps with your, pooping. It's incredibly important. But if we're eating chips, if we're eating cookies, if we're eating cakes, we're not getting a lot of fiber in, and we're actually really inflaming our bodies. So to turn down the food noise, again, we want to hit about zero point 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per goal body weight, or as I said, 25 to 35 grams per meal, and fiber between 25 and 35 grams per day. We want to get those from plants. We don't want to get those from like Metamucil. If we can get our fiber from berries, plants, even oats, things like that, we're going to feel better. So building meals between like protein, produce, starch, and fat. Again, I talked about this on the last podcast. Number four is a blood sugar whiplash. Why? Is carb only or heavy carb meals spike and crash our blood sugar, which fuels like this urgent craving, right? So that's why if you eat like really high, heavy carb meals, you feel really hungry shortly afterwards. So if you're just having a donut by itself, you're still getting calories in, but so you think I'm eating this donut, or even let's make it something quote unquote healthy. Maybe it's just like a bagel, right? A whole wheat bagel at that. You eat it and you're like, see, I'm getting, it's a bagel. And then you're hungry afterwards. So your brain makes up, oh my God, I just can't get full. When the problem is that what that looks like is post-meal sleepiness. 90 to 120 minutes later, you're desperate for sweets or caffeine. This goes back to number three. When we want to turn down the food noise, we need to pair carbs with a protein or a fat. You can add volume as well through color. So your veggies and your fruits. Save the sweeter foods after a protein rich meal. I didn't say don't eat them. Save them after a protein rich meal as much as you can. Okay. Everything we're talking about today is as much as you can because this is a lot and you're not going to be perfect with it, but do it as often as you can and you're going to see a decrease in food noise. And also, when you don't do it, you'll be like, oh shit, there's the food noise again. How did I make this happen? Now, I'd already mentioned this, but ultra processed, hyper palatable foods as your staples are going to increase food noise. They're engineered combos of salt, sugar, and fat, right? And they override our normal fullness signals and keep us chasing for more. I like to think or explain it in this way. Foods that come from the earth are foods that humans need. Foods that are engineered are actually seen as foreign entities in the body. And that's why these foods can cause a lot of inflammation and other issues, right? But what it looks like when we're eating these engineered foods with the salt, the sugar, and the fats, it feels like you can't stop at eating one. And mindless eating straight from the bag increases, right? And now we're overdoing it. And that's not because you have, again, some sort of mental illness or, chemical imbalance. It's because that's the way the food is designed. So reducing those foods or having them after that high protein meal is going to help you, right? Keep them in your diet, but not the center of your diet. Default to, again, those whole foods and then have a portion of those satisfying fun foods on your plate and sit and eat them. Eat them slowly, right? Love that for you. If you want, do the 10 bite challenge. I always talk about this. You have to sit with each bite for 10 seconds for 10 bites. And if you want to extra credit for this, you could write down the satisfaction of each bite from 1 to 10, 10 being completely satisfied. I had a client do this with potato chips. She's like, I just cannot put down the potato chips. Had her do this. She goes, I didn't like them after 3 bites. Ooh, interesting. So good, good. Okay, number 6. Let's just go over the ones we just went over. So we have aggressive calorie cuts and chronic dieting, right? We want to bring our calories up to maintenance and get in those 25 to 35 grams of protein, right? Skipping meals or chaotic meal timing. 3 meals, 1 to 2 snacks. Don't go 4 to 5 hours without a meal. Having high protein, high fiber foods or meals. So again, 25 to 35 grams per protein per meal, 25 to 35 grams of fiber per day. Building meals around protein, produce, starch, and fat. Not having carb-only meals, pairing carbs with proteins and fats, colors and volume, or having your sweeter foods after a protein-rich meal, and reducing our ultra-processed foods, keeping them in your diet, but just having a small portion of them on your plate. Now, here's a word from our sponsor, my company, the Mindset of Matter Coaching. Today's sponsor is the Mindset of Matter Coaching. Are you tired of chasing every diet, every workout plan, and still feeling stuck? At the Mindset of Matter, we get it because we've been there and we know what actually works. This isn't about starving yourself, burning out in the gym, or waiting for motivation to strike. That cycle only leads to frustration and guilt. Our coaching program gives you structure without obsession, strength without exhaustion, and freedom without losing results. It's not just fitness, it's mindset, nutrition, and training that finally fit into your life. Led by me, Christina Hathaway, therapist, trainer, and nutrition coach, myself and my team have helped thousands of ambitious women break free from perfectionism, heal their relationships with food, and actually love how they feel in their bodies. So if you're ready to stop starting over and start thriving instead, this is your sign. Apply for coaching today and let's build your strongest, most confident self. The Mindset of Matter, because success isn't about doing more, it's about doing it differently. Okay, so we went over the first 5. Now we're going to talk about 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Number 6 is stress load and rumination. Okay, so your stress levels, as you guys hopefully know by now, elevate your cravings for quick comfort and makes that mental loop around food noise harder, especially if you're someone who has not learned how to manage their emotions. And throughout your life, you've learned when I feel bad or feel good, food is how I cope. I always like to say it's called a happy meal, not a sad meal. And usually we get it if we've done something good or our parents put a lollipop in our mouths. Do you want a treat? So that we'll stop crying, right? We found that, even as babies, we soothe through food, right? We were hungry, we're in a startled state, we get a boob or a bottle, and now we're calm, okay? So what this looks like is emotionally eating after tough meetings, using food to buffer anxiety, using food to buffer boredom because you've not learned to sit with yourself. Again, I just did an episode on that. Go check it out. Why it was, I don't remember the name. The damage of external validation was the name. So to turn down the food noise, let's preload your day with pressure valves, right? Where you maybe do a 10-minute walk, listen to music, right? Shower, journal, do a meditation, right? And give yourself this 10 minutes, right? A 10-minute rule. If I'm not hungry, I'll do this 10-minute non-food thing to reset first. Okay? And at first, you're probably still going to want the food. But over time, as you teach your body, when I'm in this heightened stress state, I can do things to calm me down that are not food. In the same way you taught yourself that food will calm you down, you will learn that walking calms you down, that journaling calms you down, that petting your dog calms you down. Promise. Do it over time. Okay? So that is number 6. Number 7, poor sleep and circadian chaos. Talked about this on the sleep episode, but let's do it one more. Probably not one more. We're going to probably talk about it a lot. Why this happens is short fragmented sleep raises hunger and lowers fullness. I talked about this on the episode a couple weeks ago. Plus, it increases your body's need for that reward, right? I want to feel like I do when I'm in a deep sleep. And this looks like, again, constant snacking, extra caffeine, late night cravings, and lower willpower. So as that's all happening, right? That food noise is going. I didn't get enough sleep. Now I'm hungry. I have these cravings. Food, 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 food. And in an effort to turn it down, we want to guard our 7 to 9 hours sleep window. Guard it with your life. I cannot tell you that enough. Anchor that consistent wake time, as I talked about, keeping caffeine early in the day. And another thing, if you haven't heard it once, you're going to hear it 14 times on this podcast, having a protein in your food, especially at breakfast. Especially breakfast tends to be very high carb for people. And then that actually can start you off with food noise pretty freaking quickly, as we talked about. So if I start my day with this heavy carb meal, no protein, no fat, or maybe minimal, I am then ready to eat, 2 hours later, I'm thinking about food. I'm trying to white knuckle my way through it to try to get to lunch, right? That's causing me stress. I hadn't slept the night before, da, 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 da. It's just like dominoes. Okay. So let's really focus on managing our stress. Number 8 is when you are overtraining and under fueling. So that was number one, right? So high output without adequate fuel intake or food intake feels like an emergency. Like, this is a trauma in your body, and your body pushes you to eat, and it does it very loudly. And I can attest to this. Once again, I went to this fitness class and it was a higher output than I normally do. Now, I don't believe my Apple Watch, but just to put it into context, when I do like a 60-minute heavy strength training day, on my Apple Watch, I'll burn anywhere from 175 to 300 calories, right? Just depending on the workout. I was at 600 calories after the 60-minute workout. So there's a very big difference in output. And I was hungry, even though right after they were selling protein shakes, I grabbed one. But again, it's still a shake, right? So a little bit more processed. But I was like, I have to run errands. I'm not going to get fuel in my body. I'm going to do this first. And I was pretty hungry throughout the day, right? So again, what this looks like is, you've been training all week long, or you've done this really heavy thing, and you either have the mindset like I earned these carbs, and now we're boom, right into this high carb meal, and all the stuff we talked about goes into play, or you feel so crummy, right? You're sore, you're puffy, you're inflamed, and you want to feel that comfort, right? So, in order to turn it down, we're going to turn down our workouts, right? So, strength training 2 to 4 times a week, sprinkling interval training if we want to sparingly, and fueling the work that you're doing. Okay. So, getting enough energy in to manage the workouts. And so, when I put people in calorie deficits, we're still conservative in that. And when I do their workouts, I'm paying attention to their feedback. And if I'm starting to see that they're getting higher cravings, or they're feeling really fatigued, or whatever that is, we're going to make adjustments either to the workouts, the food, or both. Okay. All right. So number 9 is rigid food rules and scarcity language. This is my favorite one by far. And this makes me think of a new client. I'm so happy she came and worked with us. She and I are working on a tuned eating. She is putting in her pictures of her food every single day. When I talked to her first, she said, I eat these foods every day because I feel like if I don't eat those foods, I'm going to gain weight. And as she's putting in her food, she is first starting with where was her hunger when she started and where was her hunger as she ended on a scale of 1 to 10. This past week or so, I had her start also adding in how satisfied was she after each meal, because some of the meals were like beans and steak, and not some, a meal each day was beans and steak. Okay. And for her, she was stuck in this mindset of I can't, I never, only, and that drives fixation, and that fixation eventually becomes so unsustainable that rebellion kicks in. Because again, scarcity, I can't have it, I'll never have it, I can only have it if, breeds obsession, right? And because we have these very specific food rules, it looks like that weekday rigidity, or even like during the day rigidity, and either nighttime or weekend backlash, and then guilting yourself after being off plan and then repeating it, right? Labeling foods good versus bad, right? Foods are fat foods or skinny foods. This is one of the things I love working on with people, because once they realize, holy cow. So, for example, I'll just give a real life example. This particular client was eating beans because she needed to get in her fiber. And she's like, I'm afraid if I don't get in my fiber, I'm going to snack. And I was like, how satisfying are beans? She's like, I don't love them. I said, but she said, but what about the fiber? And I sent her this massive list of fibrous food. She goes, I love foods in that list. I was like, great. Let's add those in. Let's remove the beans and add those in. Have the beans when you want them. She had baked beans this week, different than the beans before. It was pinto beans before. Add them when you want them, but let's try to add in some other things. And now, I mean, she's having peanut butter and apple for a snack. She's having chocolate, and her satisfaction scores are very high, sometimes 10 out of 10. Whereas before, it would have kept that food noise going, which means I'm not satisfied. So to turn it down, we're going to swap rules for guardrails, right? I include sweets 3 to 4 days a week, right? With my meals on my plate. No food is bad food. There's nourishing foods, there are pleasurable foods. I am allowed to have both, right? And I learn what foods are both pleasurable and nourishing, and I eat the most of those foods. Foods that are nourishing, that aren't pleasurable, I learn how to cook them in a way that makes them taste better or combine them with things that make them taste better. For foods that are just pleasurable but not nourishing, I eat a portion of it mindfully so that I'm satisfied. I'm actually tasting the food because my taste buds are in my mouth. And foods that are not pleasurable and not nourishing, I don't eat. And keep in mind, foods that some people think are pleasurable could be on your don't eat list because you don't like them, right? I don't like cake. Ugh, don't, no, not gonna eat it. Sorry. People get so offended because I'm like, I don't like cake when I'm at the birthday party. I'm like, do you got pie? I like pie. I'll eat pie. Do you got cookies, ice cream? I'll eat that. I'll eat it together, right? So, and also foods that are good for you. Some people don't like. I hate onions. Ugh, gross. All right, last one. Body pressure inputs, right? So the scale, social media, clothes that don't fit, you know what I'm talking about. Constant body surveillance fuels comparison, right? I should be smaller. I need to be skinny. I'd be happier if I was skinny. This loops will trigger restriction, of course, which triggers food noise. Got it? Okay. So yes, some of these are secondary. We're weighing ourselves multiple times in the day, right? We're allowing the scale to dictate if we're good or bad. That's the difference here because I have clients weigh themselves daily, and oftentimes I'm teaching them about the differences in their weight and shifts in their weight, right? And I ask them, or I'll look at their food log and be like, okay, we saw a little spike on the scale. You went out to Panda Express. That's probably where that's coming from, right? Or, hey, look, last month, 4 weeks ago, you were seeing this increase, probably hormonal because you were on your cycle. We're having those conversations. So we're actually educating them on the fact that the scale is not the end all be all. But for you, if you're not working with us, you could get on the scale and see it as this catastrophe when it really isn't. But that catastrophe turns into mood swings, which turns into doom scrolling body content, which keeps you wanting those too tight jeans as motivation in the freaking closet. And you just get obsessed. You're obsessing even more. And I'm not gonna lie, like there are times I talked to you guys about this when I was in the grieving process. I'm still in the grieving process, very much so. But when I was not being nice to myself, I started obsessing and was like, what do I need to do? Da, 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 da. And luckily for me, I have lived without obsession for a very long time. So when it did show up, it was a little bit alarming because I'm like, oh, that's not good, right? So to turn it down, we need to curate inputs, right? Weigh yourself maybe less often, right? That could be something you do. Maybe only do progress photos if you are in this kind of phase of wanting to change your body composition, right? And maybe we're not weighing ourselves all seasons. Maybe we're only weighing ourselves to get to maintenance or weighing ourselves in a deficit, whatever. Mute the body comparisons. I followed this chick. She's 52. She's jacked. You guys probably all follow her. But when I look at her body, I think she is eating probably in a disordered way to look like the way she looks. And she's very small. She doesn't have, she's jacked, but skinny, if you know what I mean. So I stopped following her. So I'm like, I can't look at this anymore, right? And for God's sake, wear clothes that fit you. Okay? Just wear the clothes that fit you. My girl that I was talking about for her tuned eating, she's going on vacation. She's like, you know what? I was stressing myself trying to weigh less, which was causing obsession, which was causing her to binge and feel worse. And then she was like, and then I just bought clothes that wore the clothes from last season. They're clothes for this season. I am working on something different right now. And I know the thing that I'm working on right now is more important than being thinner because it is literally, I told her this last week, this is the thing that's standing in your way. This is a client on a GLP-1. Okay. And we are working on food noise because She doesn't need to be on a GLP-1. She needs to change the things we're talking about today. Okay. Let's talk about some bonuses, right? And things that you can also kind of keep in mind. Alcohol, baby, lowers inhibition, increases snacking, disrupts sleep. Okay. So that may not increase, it does increase food noise. And also, it increases your likelihood to have that food that you really want. Believe me, I know that because there'll be times I talk myself into food that I don't eat normally, right? And not that I repress myself from eating it. I'll eat it when I want it, but like in that moment, my brain's like, I want everything, right? I'm like a cookie monster. Caffeine timing again, late day caffeine can tank your sleep, causing cravings the next day, right? So these are just little like backup, not backup plans, but like forward thinking plans, right? This one is key. Dehydration and low electrolytes, right? Thirst can masquerade as hunger. And again, on the day that I did that workout deal, I was it that day? There was a day I didn't drink a lot of water. And I think it's because I was just like going. And that definitely did not feel good. So keep in mind, we should always be drinking a ton of water. So keep that top of mind. Your cycle, right? And perimenopausal shifts. The luteal phase of your cycle will increase hunger. And perimenopause can unpredictably amplify your appetite signals. So the same plan applies. Planning your protein, your carbs, your magnesium rich foods, your omega 3s, plan those accordingly, right? For your luteal phase, if we want to eat a little bit more, fine, do that. If if your body is giving you a signal that I want more, then let's try to give it a little bit more, maybe 150, 200 calories more. Okay. Because technically your resting metabolism is higher in your luteal phase. And also keep in mind this medication changes and hormone changes. I've seen this lately with clients. Some meds change your appetite. Note the patterns and talk to your prescriber about it. Okay. I can only do so much. Talk to your doctor and say, hey, I'm noticing I'm really, really hungry even after I'm eating, and I'm doing all of these other, I'm eating whole foods. I'm eating every 3 to 4 hours. I've got the protein, I've got the fiber. I'm not over exercising. Like, what gives? All right. So, last thing I want to leave you with, I promise this time, is how to distinguish between true, like food noise and true hunger. Okay. So, ask yourself out loud timing. When did I last eat protein? Okay. How long has it been? Number two is composition. What did that meal comprise of, right? Protein, fiber, fats? If not, likely a composition fix that you need to have. Number three, sleep and stress. Did I sleep? Right? Did I sleep more than 7 hours? Am I stressed? If I am, I know I expect a louder noise and I need to do some things to calm myself down. Number four, thirst. Did I drink enough water? Do I have enough electrolytes? The day I did the workout, I did have an element T in my water. And number five, sensation versus story. Do I feel stomach sensations or just a mental loop? If three of these are plus, like if 3+ points to food noise, let's do that 10-minute reset first. All right. And again, the reset could be I need to eat. The reset could be I need to fix my composition. I need to calm my body down. I need to pull back on workouts, right? So really think about what that reset is. In that 10 minutes, obviously, let's try to do something just kind to our bodies to bring the stress down. If it persists, eat a real snack, protein, carb, and fat. Just eat a real snack, okay? Not the Fiber One bar, not the Nature Valley bar, not the lovely Fairlife shakes, which I do love. I love them, but you got to eat something. All right. We are going to have protein at each meal 25 to 35 grams, a produce, a carb, and a fat. 3 meals, 1 to 2 snacks, even out throughout the day. We're going to drink our water and our electrolytes. Aim for about 2 to 3 liters of water per day. Add a pinch of salt or, again, element T, especially if you are sweating a lot. Okay. Try to maintain that sleep 7.5 to 9 hours. Do your walking daily, strength train 2 to 4 times a week. No more punishing cardio, and let's watch how we're thinking about foods, right? Good versus bad, should, shouldn't, diet culture type of shit. Because remember, diet culture got you here and then said that what you were experiencing is a problem and you need to go on this weight loss drug in order to help it. All right? All right. Food noise is not a willpower problem. It's not a mental health issue. It is not a chemical imbalance in your brain. It's an inputs problem. When you fix the inputs, fuel, timing, sleep, strength, stress load, the volume will drop. I had a woman tell me that food noise was hormonal. Technically, it can be, but also it's an input thing. You will get back your focus. You will feel like yourself again, and that is the goal. If this helped you, share it with a friend who's tired of living in a food focus loop in their brain. Or if you're a coach, share this with a client, right? I'm not, my shit is my shit. Your shit is your shit. If you feel the scarcity mindset of sharing stuff like this, then that's something you need to deal with. And you should also listen to my podcast with Adam Schaefer. So if you want to, if you want to work with someone that specializes in not only these behavioral changes, but also the mental health changes, myself and Coach Olivia are here to help you. We are both master's level mental health specialists. She's a social worker. I'm a marriage and family therapist. That's why I'm saying it that way, because I don't want to say she's a social worker and I'm a marriage and family therapist. We're both mental health professionals. We specialize in food and body obsession. We're both certified personal trainers and nutrition coaches and are highly skilled in helping you do this. Check out the show notes or just go to check out the show notes for our clarity call link or just go to the website mindsetofmatter.com. All of the information is there. And as always, if you love this episode, you're like, thank God someone finally told us what it is and how to do it without GLP-1s, because food noise wasn't a thing until these drugs came out. That's why I brought it all together. Then I'd love a 5-star rating and review. That's how you help this podcast grow. We don't have sponsors other than my program. We don't have any big names supporting us. So the more that you guys can write a nice little something, click those 5 stars, that is so helpful. If you haven't already, make sure if you're following on YouTube, you hit that subscribe button. Or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, follow us. Put those downloads on. You won't miss your girl. I don't want to miss you. You shouldn't miss me either. And I'm going to leave you reminding you of this obsession thing is very, very important. And we have to remember this, that what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. Bye-bye.